what's up everybody? Nick Bell here, your Line 6 product specialist for the morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you're coming in from today. And, hey Nagini. Hold on, my cat just came in. Hold on, let's go. Let's go, baby girl. Alright. Well, you may see a crazy cat running around. How's everyone doing? Let's see the chat here today. Alright, let's see. Got a couple of questions already. Hello, anything for HX Stomp in this video session? And then the Buckster here came in from YouTube. I think HX has split paths, which it does. So, great question. Yes, we're talking about split paths today. If you're an avid Helix user, if you're a professional Helix user, this is probably, going to be nothing but just review for you today. But yes, this applies to the entire Helix and HX family. Everything from HX Stomp, FX, Stomp XL, they all do split paths. And so they all offer the same kind of split paths, and we're going to be talking about parallel splits, using splits to do like A, B, Y splits as well if you want to, blend two different amps or go between two different amp sounds. And then there's also crossover and dynamic splits as well. And so those are where you could have, a different kind of fun. I have a little example here to show you. Maybe you guys can, dive in and, mention maybe different ways you've used those splits as well. Because I just have one, kind of obvious kind of example that I have going on here. But you guys may be using them in different ways than I am. And I'd love to hear about it. Love to see what's going on. So before we continue, I'm sure you heard my guitar a little bit. Obviously, you can hear my voice. So let me know if levels sound off at all. So check 1, 2. Here's the guitar. Let's see how we're doing. All right, we're already getting some chats coming in. What's up from Arizona, from Nepal? All right. Well, with stereo outs, especially split the days, will we be covering this? Andrew, we definitely can. Let's see, just bought Helix LT. Very excited. Could you please briefly compare Helix and LT? All right. Well, let's go down the line here as best as we can. Let's see here. So, Andrew, I'm really interested in using split paths with stereo outputs, especially with split delays. Will we be covering this? We definitely can. I have just a parallel split example I'm going to be showing. That's my first example, so I'm sure this will answer many of your questions. Keep in mind, and I'm just going to switch over to my HX edit here, and of course, I'm moving stuff around. If I want to put on a split path, I just click and drag. But when you're on your physical Helix or Helix LT, you just select the block, hit the action button, and then move the joystick down. In an HX Stomp or HX Effects, obviously HX Effects, you kind of have to dive into the menu a bit to get the signal chain. But with HX Stomp, same idea. You hit the action button, and then on the third encoder on the next page, you just switch it down from path A to path B. So for Andrew, if you're using split delays or multiple delays, obviously if I'm using a stereo delay here, it's going to send that stereo send out of my output. But if I was using two different delays and I want two discrete outputs, you go to the merge point of your parallel split and you drag that down. And so now I have two different outputs. I could have, 1/4 inch left and right. I could have 1/4 inch and, and then XLR. And you can choose maybe, if you're doing this kind of thing, maybe you would choose two mono delays for path A and path B. Split those where you want them. Otherwise, I could have two stereo delays here, and I have two stereo sends going out of two different outputs. Obviously, if you're going out of, the right 1/4 inch out, you're going to get kind of a mono-summed signal, even though it's a stereo delay. But that's kind of, your workflow when we're doing something like that. So I'll be messing around with stuff like that. Hopefully that kind of answers your question, Andrew. Feel free to chime in and let me know if I, if I missed anything, but I'll be more than happy to dive into that. So let's see. Just got a Helix LT. Very excited. Congrats on that. Could you please briefly compare Helix and Helix LT? Well, sorry about that. What's cool about Helix and Helix LT is it's exactly the same thing. Really, the biggest difference is obviously you don't get, let's go back over to this image here. I have a, with Helix Floor, you have the scribble strips, and in the back, you have all the bells and whistles, 4 stereo effects loops, everything in the kitchen sink. But with Helix LT, it's a little more streamlined, and you don't have those scribble strips. Otherwise, it's the exact same thing. So great question there. Let's see here. Voice is low. I could fix that. Let's fix that for you. How's that? Is the voice any better there? Levels are good. Sounds good. Okay, awesome. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right, so I kind of bumped up the voice there a little bit. Let me see if I could get into the yellow. All right, let me know how that works out, and we will go from there. So guys, my first example today is parallel splits, and like I said, if you're an avid Helix user, this is something you know how to do in your sleep. But for those of us who maybe just are new to this whole thing, let's take a look at what we have here. So a nice introduction into parallel splits, and a great way to start off if you're new to this is have fun with your delay and or reverb. So looking at the tone I have now, I'm going into a pillars distortion in front of the Mandarin rocker. Nothing crazy here. And then my delay is bypass for now, so let's just ignore that. And then I have my dynamic room reverb. Let's hear what we have. And so that's a nice reverb sound, a good sound overall. If I want to hear more reverb, we're going to hear that mix increase, and you're just going to hear that I'm swimming a little bit more in that reverb, right? So that's a great sound. But if you're someone like me, sometimes I like a lot of reverb. But when you crank up the reverb, you start to get lost. You start to lose your signal, which is, probably, expected. Doesn't sound bad, but now I'm starting to swim too much in that reverb. So just to start off with parallel splits here, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this delay and I'm going to get rid of it so it doesn't confuse any of us here. I'm going to start off and just put my reverb on a parallel split. That's it. And so you're going to notice a huge difference, and my apologies if the guitar gets a little loud because now we have 2 signals here, so the amp level is going to increase. So listen to the difference we have here. So here's reverb kind of cranked up. Now listen what happens when I put just the reverb on a parallel split. So what happens there is you get this wet and dry kind of thing happening here. So now, if you really like your reverb, you can start dialing it in and get it pretty wet. I could even go up to 50% now with this room reverb. And obviously it's going to increase, but now it's not going to be overwhelming. Let's hear it. So as you can see, moving just a single effect like the reverb onto its own path gives you this beautiful wet, dry kind of signal. And every time I'm using a reverb, I usually do this. especially with higher gain stuff. If I'm doing cleaner stuff, I'll just leave the reverb on its, on the same path. But just a little trick right there, where you start to get more of that studio sound straight from your Helix. And all we did was move the reverb on a parallel path. All right, we're getting some more chats coming in. Let's take a look, make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself here. Let's see here. Hello, could you explain how to split cabs and pan it left to right? And so let's see, Joe. We can get into that in a minute. But let's see. If you're using a dual cab, with dual cabs, they make it pretty darn easy. Obviously, here I just have the single cab. But if I were to, create my own amp, and I'm just going to choose something, I'll leave your question up so everyone knows what we're talking about real quick. If I was just to choose something, on a whim here, and then go to cab, and we go to dual, and then let's just choose whatever. Okay, there we go. So what I can do here is I could actually choose this cab, and I can make its pan left, or go to the next cab and make it pan right. That's probably the quickest and fastest way to do that. You don't need to split anything or create any other splits. I literally have an amp and a cab with the dual cab selected, and I can do that. You could even change the delay time in milliseconds between the two. So maybe if you want to do some, old school Metallica, Injustice for All kind of tones, there it is, right? So keep that in mind. So quick answer to your question, if you want dual cabs and you want to split them, that's a good way to do it. If you want to do a, 2 different amps and 2 different cabs and do that, then that's when we would split it as well. Let me know if that's the question you had. Otherwise, that's all you need to do. All right, Jason, let's see what you got going on here, brother. Once you get into it a bit, I'd love to hear some tips on using the dynamic split, seeing if I can replicate the E&V filter pedal I have with its own effects loop as the E&V splits into a loop. Okay, I'll do my best. I have I have one dynamic split going on here. I'm probably using it in a different way than you would need, but hopefully my example will kind of lift the veil on the whole dynamic split kind of thing. Also, okay, let's see here. Joe, also, how can we split those wet and dry signals and pan them? Well, how we would do that, let's go back to where we were. If I were to put the reverb on its own path, so now we have path A and path B on the bottom. When you go to the merge point, that's where you're going to get a lot of those controls. So for the A path, which is on top, I could pan that right here with the A pan. And again, I have the merge point selected. And again, just to reiterate for everyone, just because I'm using HX Edit does not mean you need to use HX Edit. Everything I'm doing can be done directly on Helix, or even HX Stunt. So to answer your question, I could pan A to the left and then pan B to the right. And so let's say, right now I'm going out of USB, for live streaming, but, maybe I'm going, stereo out my XLRs to front of house, let's say. What you have here is a complete left pan of the A side, so the dry is on the left, and then the wet is on the right. And then you have your levels to move around here as well. And of course you can adjust the polarities. And so I'm just going to use my Helix rec here. And again, if you ever need to go back to the default or user default settings for anything, just go right over to your level. And so I don't think my level needs to be 3, so I'm just going to go back there. But yeah, you push the knobs beneath the screen and you will get back to the default set level. So Joe, I hope that answers your question. That's a really quick and easy way to do it. You could also grab the merge point and drop it down, and then now you have 2 discrete outputs here where you have a little more control, and you could still do the exact same thing we just did, but now maybe if you want different outputs, maybe you want to send one or two or both of these down to the next path and build an even bigger preset. The whole idea with Helix here is, as you can see, whatever you need it to do, it's going to do for you. And so that's one thing that I just love about Helix, and and why it's one of those one of these, processors you can put up against anything else, and just give the other guy's rig a run for its money, right? All right, so hopefully that's doing good. Let's dive into it. We've got a lot of questions today, guys. This is great. Thank you all for joining today. Much appreciated. We highly appreciate you guys. Looking here. Also, how can we split? Just to see that. What do you think about the tone and feel on Helix? So, this is a personal thing, and you're also talking to, a Line 6 product specialist. But honestly, it's like you don't really feel like you're working when you are, when you're representing something you believe in, right? And that's one of the first things about Helix that blew me away was its feel. We are one of the few who do true point-to-point modeling. And so don't get me wrong, with that true to point modeling, whether it's behavior modeling or component modeling for amps and stuff, again, like I was saying, don't get me wrong, you can get a great sound out of so many things that are out there on the market. But this is what's the big difference, is that it feels like the real thing, and that's why I really enjoy it and love playing with it, because it really does feel like the real thing. And so, of course, I have nothing but amazing things to say about it. If you haven't yourself, I think, this guy over here, if you haven't played it yourself, the best thing I can say is just go play it. Feel free to take my word for it, but go check it out and move the amps around. And one thing we get to do here with amps and stuff is we have these power amp controls, and so every circuit of the amp was modeled, so that's why we're able to move the AC ripple around, the bias excursion around, and so on and so forth. And so if I move these parameters around, you may not hear a difference, but I feel the difference, and so that changes how I play, because I could just dig into it. So great question there. Again, if you haven't checked it out, go out to your local store and play through it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Tony Camponovo in the house. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Thank you for coming in. Can also do via Helix native. Yes, pretty much everything Helix Floor, Helix LT can do, you can do in Helix native. And what's the beauty with Helix native is how HX Edit looks here. Helix native is the exact same thing. So definitely, Helix native is great and the exact mirror image of what we're doing today. Perfect. What is the Y split? All right, so I'm glad you asked, Joe, because that's exactly what we're going over today. Sorry, I've been going through everyone's awesome questions. Great session. Thank you as well. Can we do like a... Let's see here. Can we do like a 30 millisecond slap on the left, 60 millisecond slap delay on the right, and dry signal in the middle? So we definitely could. Let's see, something in the middle. So that's where I would have to. That's where I would have to do some reorg of what's going on here. Let's see if we still have time for that. Because still, guys, with all of your amazing and awesome questions coming in, I haven't even gotten past parallel splits. So let's move along here. We got, 10 minutes left for the rest of the stream, but I think we can do it. So I'm just going to continue on, and I'm going to check out to see what you guys are saying here. But Kevin, thank you so much for that. I'll see what we can do. Highly appreciate you for coming in today. Let's see. AZD, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? Is there a trick on getting a headphone play to sound good? Clean sounds great, but distortion sounds shrill. You want to know, the thing is I don't care. I've used very, very expensive headphones, and there's just something about that. I don't know if it's just the lack of air moving. It is different, though, if you listen to your head, make a recording in your Logic or Pro Tools, whatever, and when you mix that song the way you're supposed to, and then you listen to it back in headphones, it sounds like any other song, right? That you listen through headphones. But I think us guitar players, we're so used to hearing the air move that when you have these little tiny speakers pushed up to your ears, you just kind of get, you don't get the full picture, the full audible picture, if you will. So, you know, of course, when you record a song, you throw it into, you know, your mixing and mastering, and it comes out into a nice, you know, leveled musical piece. So it'll sound different once you do all that, you know, all that magic to it. But yeah, you know, I totally know what you mean. And I've even had the same experiences when, you know, eons before Helix was released, when I was much younger, recording in studio. You know, I would hear myself playing through my headphones. I'm like, gosh, is this the tone I'm getting? I hope it sounds good in post. And eventually it did. So let's see what's going on here. What's going on? Sir Llama here. Tried Fractal and Helix side by side. To me, the Fractal amp feels good and natural and makes me feel comfortable playing, but the Helix, I don't get the same feel like Fractal. Not sure what. Hey, you know what? Different strokes for different folks. No worries. You know, you find what works best for you, and you just keep on keeping on. But definitely, thank you for letting us know about that. But yeah, you know, stick around. Always experiment, because you never know when you may rekindle that that friendship with Helix. But thanks for being transparent and stuff. And thanks for being a part of the stream today. We much appreciated. All right, so I gotta look away from the comments for a minute here. So we'll get through this kind of quick. So I showed how you can get that kind of wet and dry kind of sound. You know, now the reverb is just, you know, so much. So another cool trick, we had a delay in here earlier, and I'm gonna paste that. Another trick I love doing with parallel splits is splitting delay. So delay and reverb. So right now I have a delay going in front of a reverb. Let's hear how that sounds. So not too bad, but you know, once we start, you know, if you're kind of losing the reverb a bit, if the feedback of the delay is starting to get a little much, it's kind of what we're used to here when you have a delay in front of a reverb. And for those of us who, you know, have pedal boards and so on and so forth, you know, this is probably, you know, an instance that I would always run into. It's like finding that happy mix between your delay and your reverb. But when you put them on a parallel path, you know, what you're doing is currently the delay is processing into the reverb. So every delay repeat is going to have a reverb trail along with it. So that's why it ends up sounding cluttered. But when you move them on a parallel split, your signal processes to the delay and the reverb separately, and now you have a much cleaner sound. And so your guitar just sounds like it's more in your face in the center. And now what I can do is I could even start to crank up the mix of that delay. I love this elephant, man. You could have a lot of fun with it. Crank it up to 50. But to me, it sounds so much cleaner running your delay and reverb like this. So, you know, hopefully you can hear that on your end as well. And, you know, if you've been using delays and reverbs with your Helix and such, definitely try this. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. So moving on from there, that's it in a nutshell, right? You put whatever effects you want where, and if you don't want them processing in front of one another, this is a great way to do that. And keep in mind, you can move these split points and merge points wherever you need. So that's parallel splits in the bag. Moving over to A/B splits. And so I have the same amp on the B path, being that Mandarin rocker with the pillars distortion in front of it. And then above that on path A, we have the Jazz Rivet 120. So currently, when you have this, when you select the split point, you have the choice between a Y split or an AB split. Now, a Y split is going to be, you know, what you would expect, right? A perfect Y split where I'm going to get both amps simultaneously. Let's hear how that sounds. Probably not the greatest sound, but there it is. Now, you can adjust the balance of the A and the B path. So if I want clean on the left and my heavy distorted amp on the right, I can do so. Obviously, probably kind of, you know, weird or hard to hear on your end. So that's what we get with a split path. Now, with a split AB, that's where you're going to have the ability to create an AB switch, and you could assign that to a foot switch. You could even assign it to the expression pedal, and that's something I'll show you here. So currently, just leaving it alone, the split AB is acting like a Y split. But if I grab the encoder here and I move all the way to the left, which is the A path 100%, now we're just going to get the A path, which is the Jazz Rivet 120. And then obviously if we go to the B path, if you think we're going to get a distorted amp, you guessed right, because that's what's happening. All right, so what we can do here is I'm going to assign this to an expression pedal. Now I'm going to right click and choose expression pedal 1. Obviously on your Helix, what you can do is you could press action, and then when you press action, not action, if you just push and hold down on the encoder that the route 2 is assigned to, that's where you're going to get, on the knob 6, you're going to get learn controller. And so if you push knob 6, you just move any expression pedal you have connected, and it will automatically assign that for you. So I'm just going to choose expression pedal 1, and then I ran out of cameras and stuff today. So as you can see, I'm moving this with my expression pedal. And so I could literally just do something like this. And I'm getting some weirdness with this expression pedal. I'm not sure if you guys have. This is, you see right there, I think that's what happens, I think, after it's been dropped a little bit and not used for a while. But when I go to the toe, it's fine. But going to the heel, it gets kind of weird. So that's definitely my expression pedal. So as we can see here, this is the Path B 100%. And then I can drop it down a bit. And so what you can also do is go to bypass controller assign. And then if I go to bypass, where it has the split AB, if I choose route 2 instead of bypass, I could actually determine the minimum and the maximum values. So then now, when I go all the way down to the heel position, I'm at A59. And then at the toe, I'm at B49. So that's exactly what I set here. So if you need to be locked into a set amount, that's something you can do. Another way is you could just have an even split for the minimum, and then for the maximum be maybe this distorted amp. So here I am on the toe, so I have my nice distorted sound, and then when I go all the way to my heel, that's where I would end up with that even split or a Y. So there's many different ways you can do this, where you can have an AB split, an ABY split, and another way we can do this is assign it to a foot switch. So if I have my Helix control down here, because I'm using HX Helix rack, I could assign this to, let's say, foot switch 9, and then that way, and so we see my minimum settings there, and so let's do this. Let's go minimum A, and so on and so forth. And so now you can set this to a foot switch. And so you get the idea. So that's your A/B split right there. I think we all get it. Pretty straightforward there. And so a little couple minutes over the half hour, no worries. So I think the split everyone's been most curious about is dynamic split. And again, like I said, this is one way I honestly don't have a use for dynamic splits. You definitely may have some uses for them. So this is just an example a compelling example that I thought of off the cuff, that would make sense to show for a demonstration. Now, before I can go too far, there is also a crossover split. Now, a crossover split, I think, is probably more beneficial for bass players. Being a guitar player, we're really stuck in the mid-range, right? So the whole idea here is that you can, with how it sits here, high frequencies will only be up on the A path, and the low frequencies will be crossed over into the B path. So if you have some instrument or some playing that's really dynamic, where you have a lot of low end, maybe one of those crazy 10-string guitars or something, or if you're a bass player with something crazy going on, you can make it where, okay, whenever I hit high notes, I'm gonna have this crazy octave shimmer reverb or something go on, but then when I go back to playing rhythm, it's just going to be my regular dry bass amp. That's what you would use a crossover split for. I don't have anything that can really demonstrate that for you. So if you were curious on crossover splits, I'm sorry, I don't got anything. But I do have something for the split dynamic. So the split dynamic is the same idea as crossover, but instead of dealing with frequencies, we're dealing with with audio level. And so when we look at the split dynamic, it looks a lot like a noise gate. And that's a lot how it's reacting. So pretty much how I have this set is I'm still using 2 amps. I have this nice jazz rivet with some chorus, and then below that I have the same amp we've been using all day, the Mandarin rocker with some distortion in front of it. So my idea here was it would be cool when I play nice and soft, I have a clean amp, and then when I dig into it, I have a distorted amp. And so the whole idea is, well, maybe in a live setting, I won't have to hit a foot switch. I could be anywhere on stage, and or wherever I am in that piece of music, however hard I pick will determine my tone. So let's mess around with that. So I'm going to play soft, and then when you see me kind of dig into it, you're going to hear that tone change. So I hit that string kind of hard. So you kind of have to, dial this in pretty well. And the threshold and the attack is something that, will kind of help you out. So let's make the attack maybe a little slower. Let's try that again. So you can see, you can have some fun with that. So I have the attack set really low. That way when I dig into it, it just kind of clicks in immediately. The threshold is going to be how loud your guitar has to be until that split happens. And then the other, so I think the most major parameters to worry about with this kind of a split would be the threshold and the decay. Currently, my decay is set, just a smidge, just a scotch above 3 seconds. And so that means, after we switch over to the B, to the B path, it's going to hold on to that for 3 seconds until it decays away. So these are the 2 parameters you're going to want to mess around with. Now, obviously, the example I have today was a clean amp with a dirty amp beneath it. But imagine all the different possibilities you can do with different effects, and you can move again those split and merge points in different parts of the signal chain or the signal path. So you can do all sorts of different things, and and if you guys have some really cool or other methods of using these splits, feel free to share them in the chat, even when we're done here today, because this chat will live on the Facebook and YouTube channels. So if you So if you have something cool, share it in the chat on Facebook, and then I'm sure the whole community will start chiming in and have some fun. But that was one way I was able to use it. And so I'm just going to take a quick look at the chats here. We got some coming in. We are almost 10 minutes past the half hour, so I'm going to have to get the hell out of Dodge, as they would say, pretty soon here. So let's just see what's up. I don't want to leave anyone hanging. I want to make sure everyone is involved in today's stream. All right. So again, thank you guys for sticking around. Much appreciated. Is there a trick on getting a headphone? We already covered that. Is there a way to copy Helix floor tones into Helix Native? Steven or Stefan? Of course. And it's super easy. One way to do it is you can, let's say I have these tones here. I can literally, copy all of them and drag them to my desktop. I could export by doing so right there, and then export all of them and then move those where I need them. You could also export the entire set list. So I'm on user 4. If I want to export this entire set list, I can do so and just click export. And then you literally just drag that file into your Helix Native. Another way to do it, and I think I could even show you here. Let me make sure there's nothing weird going on with it. Want to make sure I don't have anything. Okay, so I have to sign it to Helix Native. Anyways, so pretty much what you can do, if you have HX Edit and Helix Native open at the same time, I could literally click this preset and drag it over into Helix Native. So you can literally have your Helix floor running and your Helix Native, and you could just click and drag all day long. I could even copy this effect, go into my Helix Native, and paste it there. So that the two just work flawlessly together, and that's with any system. So if you have a Helix floor, or maybe my Helix floor, my HX Stomp for the fly rig I'm doing, I could literally just drag whatever I want from one editor to the next. If I had another Helix plugged in, I could literally have multiple HX Edit windows open. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, they talk and play with each other very nicely. So thank you very much, Stephen, Kevin. Thank you so much. I don't know why, but I haven't been happy with the tone fret. We already covered that. Can we have independent outputs, for example, with a Variax built-in acoustic snapshot, another one for amp on the second snapshot? I think you definitely can. Can I have independent outputs, for example, with a Variax 2.1 with a built-in acoustic snapshot as an intro, and another for an amp on the second snapshot? Yeah, so, think with snapshots, it's a preset within a preset, so as long as everything's there in your preset, you should be able to switch through. And you can have Variax set for really, I could, keep in mind, you can even go to the split point that you're working with, and let's say we had a split AB or a Y split, I can take that split point and move it down as well. And I can have two different guitar inputs, or I could have two Variax inputs, let's say, and then you could have discretely whatever you want on path 1 or path 2. If you need to, you can even drop down the second path, and now you have two discrete paths, and you can do whatever you need, need to switch, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that kind of shows what possibilities there are. Keep in mind, whenever you do this, you're still using the same Shark processors. So just because you have two paths doesn't mean you can do more. Although Helix is very powerful as it is, just keep that in mind, that you didn't just free up some magical DSP that wasn't there. So great stuff. Let's see here. Thank you so much. This was a great session. Joe, thank you. Much appreciated. I appreciate you for being in. Jose Hernandez, thank you so much. Highly appreciate you as well. Let's see. I think the demo. I think the demo clarifies the dynamic split a lot. That's a moving between the blend of two paths. Is that right? It's not a moving blend between the two paths. It's one or the other, right? Yes, correct. In regards to that dynamic split we were talking about, it's one or the other. And so once you pass this threshold, that's when the switch happens, and then that's where you adjust the decay. Same thing for crossover, obviously just working with frequencies. And keep in mind, you can reverse it as well. So if I wanted the opposite to happen, you just turn the reverse on. And so you have that there. Great stuff, Jason. Thank you so much. Jake, a fun dynamic split idea. Harder attack adds the partial verb set to hazard. Pick hard and it glitches out. Oh, that's awesome. Jake, thank you so much, man. And we always appreciate you in our chats or in our streams. So thank you very much on that. Steven, how you doing? Thank you so much. So grateful for your kind help, and we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in today. Appreciate you. Let's see here. The Buckster. Does patch transfer work both direction between Helix Native and Edit? Yes. This definitely between Helix Native, Helix LT, and Helix Floor. You're not going to be able to do something in native you can't do in floor, and vice versa. And so that's kind of the beauty and the synergy we have going on there. The only time you would run into a situation like this is if you have this large preset in Helix Floor, native or LT, that you want to transfer to HX Stomp. Same goes between HX Effects and HX Stomp, because HX Stomp can run 8 processing blocks at once. HX Effects can run 9. And then Helix Floor and LT, it's a lot more than that. So if you try to transfer a tone that has 10 blocks into Helix, into HX Stomp, that's where you're going to run into issues. So keep that in mind. So you could always remove 2 blocks from that 10, and if you come down to 8, that's when you can move it to HX Stomp or Stomp XL. Otherwise, again, to reiterate, you can go back or forth between native and Helix products. So let's see here. All right, looks like we have some responses going between you guys. Perfect. I used to have an article on videos who bring this video to stage Helix Native. Perfect. All right. Pipeline Audio. Thank you so much, Pipeline Audio. They're coming in, and looks like they're pretty avid Helix users as well. So thank you for joining the stream today and in showing your support. All right, guys. Well, stick a fork in me. I'm done. I hope that was fun, and I highly appreciate you guys. Today was very interactive, and we got a lot of stuff from you guys, and so much appreciated. I had a lot of fun, and you guys, helped make it a lot of fun. So thank you again. Before I leave, I just want to hit you with this. Helix Skype lessons, whether it's Skype, Zoom, or whatever, it don't matter. But if you go to this website, line6.com/events, you can sign up for a free lesson with myself, Tony Camponovo, and whoever. If you have a request, let us know. Otherwise, if you liked what we did today and you would like a one-on-one experience with yourself, just like what we did today, we are offering this free through our website. So sign on up. It's free while it lasts, and we'll get you going. But other than that, I'll leave that up on the screen for you, and you guys just sign up whenever, and maybe we'll see you guys in the near future. Otherwise, thank you again. Stay safe and healthy, and we will see you on the next stream. Thank you very much.